Some people are interested in knowing whether they should go to college or not, especially for like an academic sort of job, right? Some people go to college, for a mechanical degree or something that is primarily non-literature based, where you don't have to have great verbal skills to be successful. And for people who wish to go to college for a more verbal profession, right? Something along the lines of social studies, history, political science, sociology, anthropology, literature, languages, le français, right? Espanol, Russian, Chinese, right? Mandarin Chinese, whatever it happens to be. For me, you shouldn't go to college unless you really have a passion for your field. Right? To go to college simply because you believe you need to go to college in order to get a good job is unwise to me, because it's a very competitive marketplace, right? Going to college does not guarantee you a job unless you can perform well in college. And even then, it doesn't guarantee you a job, it just makes it more likely. If you don't have connections, I would say, in fact, having connections is the best way to get a job. But if you don't have connections, often employers are looking at performance in college. So if you have a 3.8 GPA versus somebody with a 2.4 GPA, you're much more likely to get hired if there's no connections involved, because GPA is important. Employers are interested in knowing what kind of intelligence you possess, how successful you are from that perspective, right? So when I graduated from high school, my verbal SAT score was 1490 of 1600. That was single test date. I wasn't combining different test dates, right? So 1490 of 1600, which is, generally speaking, considered respectable. But it wasn't that I went to college and automatically got all A's, right? I mean, I graduated from my undergrad program with only like a 3.552 GPA. Now, I often took like 20 credits a semester, so I was challenging myself, right, with a definitely full workload, even more than a full workload. And I went to a difficult undergraduate program in Allegheny. But the key was, that I was passionate about my subject, right? I wanted to read literature. I wanted to study political science. I wanted to, study French. So I studied all of those fields. I have, I got 2 majors and I was 1 French class short of a minor. So I really tried to maximize my experience from an intellectual perspective when I was an undergrad. Because it was expensive. And this is something you should really consider in terms of going off to college, is the expense involved. If you're going to have to take out loans, you need to know what that details. You need to know how much money you're taking out. You need to know how you plan to repay that money, right? Because if you're having to take out $25,000 over 4 years at 6% interest, for example, that's going to be a lot of money to pay back. Because not only are you having to pay back the $25,000, but you're going to have to pay back that money with interest, 6% interest. So even if you get deferments and different things like that, you're still going to have all this interest accruing. So you want to make sure if you go to college, by and large, that you have a job lined up for yourself, or at least a possibility of a job lined up for yourself after you graduate. Right? Now, you can't always guarantee that, but one of the ways you can help yourself in this way is by taking your education seriously. So if you don't like, for example, reading, but you want to be an English major in college because you think that that's going to get you a good job, that might be a problem. You're probably not going to have the motivation to be a successful English student under that situation, right, or in that context. So I think you want to think about what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, what you can see yourself doing, what you would enjoy doing. If you would enjoy working on cars, maybe you should become a mechanic, right? And not go to, a university where you're going to have to take all these literature-based classes and pay lots of money. Maybe you can go to a vocational kind of college where you're taking kind of courses to get an associate's degree in something mechanical related, so you can, fix cars. Because what too many people do, I think, today, and this is my view, is they go to college for something they don't like, right? So they end up working as adults in jobs that they really detest because they want the money. And they maybe need the money to pay off the student loan debt. But what I'm saying is, if you can find the job you like, I think you're better off pursuing that job in most cases than going and finding a job you detest simply because you think it pays better, because college is going to be challenging, right? I mean, you're going to have to work at the material to be successful, right? So you want to prepare yourself for that. And if you're going to college with this idea simply, oh, I just need to graduate, right, so I can get my dream job, or the job I think is going to pay well that I don't even want to do, but it's going to pay well and I want to buy stuff. Well, I mean, I think you want to re-examine that, because you may discover that you are going to have a rather miserable life if you pursue that course of action. And there are plenty of people graduating from college who cannot find jobs. This is a sad reality of life. The job market is really bad. So if you do want to go to college, you want to go to college for academics, to expand your knowledge, to expand your understanding, to gain information, to be exposed to different perspectives, different cultural experiences. If you go to college because of films you've seen, where you go to all parties all the time, right? The film's just about Greek life and partying and drunkenness and a good time, right? You're going to college for a bad reason. You're spending a lot of money to party, right? It's not that there's anything wrong with having fun. You can party if you want to occasionally. It can be a good thing to do, to have some fun with your friends. But if you're going to college and partying all the time, you're not going to have time to devote to your studies. Maybe you can have somebody in the film who has a 3.9 GPA who's partying all the time, but almost universally, when you go to college, you're not going to be able to have a 3.9 GPA and party all the time. You're just not going to be able to do it. There's mechanisms in place to keep that from happening, right? There's rigorous exams. You're not going to be coddled as much as you were probably coddled in high school. And so, you want to really study. And also, you don't really want just to graduate with a 2.01 GPA, right? You want to have a good GPA because more and more employers are looking at even college degrees now, undergraduate college degrees, with some suspicion, right? So they want to see things now like job experience, or, sometimes GRE scores, something to show them that you actually learned something in college and that you just didn't go to a party and get passed through the system by professors who just didn't want to get bad evaluations, right? And so they gave you C's in the class rather than D's or F's like you deserved, right? So what I'm indicating once more here is that you want to take out of your mind any conception you have from popular films with everybody going off to college and partying all the time, and realize that if you go to college and behave that way, you're probably not going to have a great GPA. You're probably going to really suck academically, right? And so you're going to spend a lot of money to get a piece of paper that is not particularly meaningful to you, and you might not even get the piece of paper. You might fail out of college with $20,000 of student loan debt, right? And that's not going to be good, because you still have to repay that money. You have to repay student loan debt regardless of whether you get the job. You have to repay student loan debt regardless of your ability to pay. You can't really declare bankruptcy on your student loan debt. It's extremely difficult. So you want to keep those sorts of things in mind. If you look at people like me and you think, oh, that geeky academic, right, who's lecturing us on cognitive and intellectual functioning, blah, I want to go to college and drink a lot of vodka, right? Well, you're probably wasting your money. Now, you can make that decision still to go to college for that reason, but for me, unless you have a serious understanding of intellectual things that you want to do, something, a clear course of action, it's probably not best for you to go to college, at least not right away. Maybe you can save away some money. Once you turn 25, you can go to college, and get more financial aid, because your parents won't count anymore, right? So, because if you go to college when you're 18 and your parents make $50,000 a year, they might have to contribute money to your college education, right? If you wait till you're 25 and you have a job that pays, $12,000 a year, right, you probably are going to get a lot more grants and financial aid to go to college. And you'll also have some real world work experience in the process. So, a lot of people think that college is this great experience, and they feel neglected if they can't go to college. But they do that because they imagine college is this great party house. They're going to go and have lots and lots of fun all the time, right? Fun as in partying, right? Fun as in, watching sport games and doing all these kinds of things with other people that have nothing to do with studying or learning. In the real educational world of the university, if you go to college and you don't study, you go to college and you don't, prepare for your exams, you don't write your papers on time, you're probably going to fail out. If you don't attend your classes, it's not going to go well with you either. Right? If you sleep through classes, you'll probably be allowed to do it because the professors are not going to treat you like 5 years old, most likely. But you're not going to get a good grade, and you're not going to be able to go and call mommy, and tell mommy to sue the school because you didn't get good grades. In high school, unfortunately, we've often succumbed to pressure to pass students through the system. In university, a lot of universities, they're big organizations, they have enough lawyers that if you fail a class because you didn't show up to class or you didn't get good exam grades, you can't sue the university. Or if you do, you won't win, and very few lawyers will even take the case, right? So you want to be aware of the fact that you're going to have to behave as adults in university, take your education seriously, have an idea what you want to do with your life when you go to university. And one of the ways of knowing that is, I would say, taking the SAT seriously, right? If you want to go to college, you want to get good financial aid, and taking the SAT and scoring well in the SAT can be a great way to improve your financial aid options. So, I would say that if you don't have the patience to sit down and study for the SAT, yes, it's a stupid test. Yes, most people don't find it fun to study for the SAT. But if you don't have the ability to sit down and study for it, maybe with some friends, you don't have to necessarily do it all on your own. But if you don't have the patience to study for the SAT just to figure out how to get a good grade on it, right, to figure out the tricks they're trying to play with you so that you don't score well, you don't have that kind of patience, I start to question whether you have the patience to go through college, right, the patience to do all the things that college is asking of you to do, right? That would be my litmus tests, right? If you score well in the SAT, right, if you figure out the SAT, and especially if you can find it fun, right? Because in some ways, that's what the SAT is one of those tests where the test is trying to get you to get a bad score, and you can try to figure out how to outsmart the test, right? If you find that kind of exercise fun, right, or at least intellectually rewarding, right? If you enjoy that kind of competition, right, competing with your friends for highest SAT scores and trying to outsmart the SAT test, then I think you're more ready for college than if you look at the SAT simply as a stupid test I gotta take, and I'm not gonna study for it because I don't want to. If you have that latter attitude, I'm gonna question more whether you're prepared for college and whether college would be best suited for you. Because you're going to, I'm sure in college, have times where you don't want to do something, like study for a test or complete a project, right, or go to class. And you have the motivation to do those things. And if you don't have the motivation to do those things, you're going to probably not be that successful in college. So you have to make that decision. Decide, how much academics are going to mean to you. And realize, of course, that there are plenty of jobs out there where you don't need a college education, certainly not an academic college education. And those jobs are perfectly reasonable. Some of them pay rather well, right? Some of them definitely pay more than even some college jobs do. So don't let anybody tell you that you're less worthy of a person if you don't go to college, right? Just decide what's interesting to you, what you like to do, and then pursue that course of action. And if you find yourself, interested in electronics or interested in mechanics or interested in electrical or in building or construction or in landscaping or in all these other possible jobs, cooking, maybe you don't need to get an academic education at a university. Maybe you should have some other pathway you can pursue that will be more interesting to you, that you can better pursue, that you can feel more comfortable pursuing, that's more interesting to you, for you to pursue, and you'll be a happier person than if you simply just follow the mass of people and go to college and think that college is somehow going to be this partying all the time experience. It is for some people, but then most of those people are not very successful in college. So hopefully this video has been able to give you some idea of why you should go to college in certain situations and why you shouldn't go to college in other situations, and can help you think through whether college is the right fit for you. Thanks.